We're here in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, ready to kick off our Guardians Against Ticks program. We have all of our tick experts here, our bug biting team, and we're ready to provide you guys with the best, most accurate, and up-to-date information. Well, thank you so much for allowing us to tour your facility, see what you have going on. Can you just introduce yourself, who you are, your title, what you do?
So my name is Stephen Rich. I'm a professor of microbiology here at the University of Massachusetts. And for the past 35 years or so, I've been studying ticks and tick-borne diseases. And with the past 2 years, we actually started a new initiative, which is the New England Center of Excellence in Vector-Borne Diseases. So that's tying together some of the great researchers in our region, each of the 6 New England states, to work together in 3 areas. We do 3 things. One is we do operational research, which means we want to figure out how to reduce the number of ticks and mosquitoes that are biting people and transmitting disease. We're also trying to train, our second objective, to train the next generation of public health entomologists, the people that will fill our shoes in the next generation. And then the third piece, and one we're really excited about and sort of unique to this program, is we're building communities of practice. So what we're trying to ensure that we do is not just do research that we think is important, not just do research that we want to do, but rather to do research that's needed, and to make sure that the research we're doing and the findings that we're coming up with are getting down to the populations that most need them. So we're building that community.
And it's so important because even just starting Bug Bite Thing and launching our tick remover, our own community and so many more around are asking for the proper information. They're asking what they can do to help the situation, and everybody's got a different story. And what you guys are doing, just from walking around and, me seeing, you guys are at the front lines working and trying to help communities that are suffering, people that are getting sent down rabbit holes because they don't have the full picture or understanding of what's happening when a tick bites them or when they find a tick.
And what we're trying to do in all that business is to get it out and to build trust in the communities, because one of the things you probably discovered in these communities is there are untrustworthy sources of information. When the COVID pandemic started and then when it got into the thick of it, I watched as that was all the things that were happening. And I was like, we played this game before, because it's very much like the space for ticks and tick-borne diseases. Lots of information, not all of it good. People struggling to figure out how to sort out what's the good from the bad. And sometimes there's alternatives, and maybe it just doesn't matter whether it's A or B. And just knowing that creates uncertainty in people and anxiety.
So you took me to some already incredible places, your labs, all of that stuff, and then you walked me into this room. Where are we? What's the history here? Because this is like something I've never seen.
So you're sitting in the auditorium of Fernald Hall at the University of Massachusetts, and historically this was the home of entomology at the University of Massachusetts. So going back to about 1911, this was the building where people were doing not just tick and mosquito research, but all kinds of other agricultural entomology work. Sadly, there's no longer entomology department at the University of Massachusetts, but many of the people that still study insects work in this building, and we teach right in this laboratory. Right in this classroom. So what you're seeing is the seats that students would come and listen to us talk about bugs.
So much history in this room.
Yeah, I'm sure that if the walls could talk, they'd have stories.
If you could get your message out to communities on a big scale, what are some of the frustrations you have over this situation in communities, like with misinformation, and what would be your message to them?
I think there's 2 things that I worry about most. One is that people don't seem to understand that every tick exposure has a story. It is part of a story, and the story has a beginning and a middle and an end. And that middle is very long, meaning that even if you've encountered a tick, there's many things that you can do along the way, including pulling the tick off early, that will prevent you from getting sick. Even if you don't do that, there are things that you can constantly be thinking about to prevent yourself from getting to the worst case scenario of a tick exposure. So I think the biggest thing is for the people to understand that it's not like you walk in the woods and it's a death sentence when a tick gets on you. You've got chances to keep those ticks off you. You've got chances to remove the ticks that get on you. And then even if a tick has not been pulled off soon enough, there are things that you can do to monitor to make sure that you have a better outcome from that exposure. So that's number one thing. The other small thing is I just wish people would get their head around the timing of this.
Yeah.
So here in New England, and it's different in different parts of the country, but here in New England or Northeast, we basically have a tick season with the black-legged ticks that starts in April and goes into late May. That's the adult season.
Okay.
Then we see nymphs come in June, July, and then that ends. And then we have a quiescence, like a real quieting. And then in the fall, we'll see adults again. Those are the hot windows. And people sometimes, and the reason that's frustrating to me is I'll see people in September and they'll be like, oh, it's a great tick year. No. There are no ticks in September, not no ticks, but there are very few ticks in September because that's their cycle. And people are just tempted to be thinking about September of this year and comparing it with July of last year when the ticks are active. So I just wanted people to understand, and maybe they can correspond it to different things in their life, like the start of school is not a tick season. Halloween, tick season.
What is the reason they need to know that? So they can be on alert, so they can understand more their risk to, exposure of something?
Yeah. So if every tick exposure is a story, they're more in control of the story. They become the author of the story if they're aware of when the exposure took place. And load up their toolbox so that they've got the set of tools.
Absolutely.
And not the notion that there's one thing that you're going to do that's a magic bullet that's going to solve this problem.
It's an ongoing problem. The risk is always going to be there as far as we can foresee. So let's get better at protecting ourselves and our loved ones, and let's get better at educating and identifying what we can do to help what's already happening and communities are struggling with.
Yeah, and there's lots of analogies in public health that we can look to, like think about sun exposure. Like when I was a kid, we'd run around all the time, maybe no shirt, no hat, and get sunburn, and we didn't think anything of it. Now, we wouldn't think of letting the kids go outside the house without sunscreen. And we don't fuss and make a big deal about it. We just put the sunscreen on and off you go. And so if we have those kinds of considerations for how we keep ourselves tick safe, we can improve the situation considerably.
I love that. How did NEWVEC come about?
So NEWVEC came about, so the Centers for Disease Control recognized after Zika virus, which was the mosquito virus of the mid-2000 teens, after that they recognized that they needed more localized support of these kinds of outbreaks, and so they created the Center of Excellence program. They went 2 rounds of that, 2 5-year rounds. The second round is the one where we said, you know what, New England needs a center of its own. We have a unique set of circumstances here. Sort of the government situations are different than they are. We don't have county governments, for example, in many of our states. And yet we have a huge tick problem and no real ability to support it. So when CDC came up with this second round of Center of Excellence funding, we put a proposal together with this group of, I have to brag, but crackerjack scientists to come up with a proposal that fit the need quite well.
That's incredible. Your freezer full of ticks. Can you just explain how that came about? Why I walked into a room full of 120,000 frozen ticks? Yeah,
so just to point out, it's multiple freezers. So there's about a dozen freezers, and 125,000 of those ticks are ticks that bit a person, were sent to us for pathogen testing, and then reported back to those individuals. And then the ticks are maintained, or the DNA and RNA of those ticks is maintained as a frozen archive in a set of those freezers. Other freezers are filled with ticks that we go out and collect from the wild that haven't yet bit people. Those are also of use to us because we can look at where these new pathogens are emerging and where they're present.
And saving them means if you discover a new pathogen or something else, you can go back retroactively and test the tick that you have frozen.
That's right. So if you think about Lyme disease, the big one, before 1975, really no one knew anything about it. It wasn't discovered until 1980. So if you were sick in 1970, you were not really able to figure out that this was Borrelia burgdorferi. But with an archive like this, you can go back and actually see what was present in the ticks previously.
What's NEWVEC's future look like?
So always our goal is to move the needle on the number of people getting bit by ticks, to reduce the number of people getting bit by ticks. I guess ideally, the aim of NEWVEC would be to not need NEWVEC.
Right, that would be the ultimate,
That would be nice. I don't know that that's doable. I think this is more of a management issue, but it's how to reduce the number of people that get bit by ticks and how to reduce the severity of disease that they get exposed to. So one of the things we're doing now is big push in NEWVEC is Project ITCH. So ITCH stands for Is Tick Control Helping? So many people in the Northeast are using pesticide control operating companies to come in and spray their backyard to kill ticks. We know that these things, some of them work quite effectively, others we have questions about. So what we started is a project where we go into backyards, we sample ticks, we compare ticks that are treated with ticks with yards that are not treated, and we see if they're really making a difference. Is tick control helping?
So proper and prompt tick removal is an important step to help at least mitigate or reduce your risk.
Happy story. Making that story have a happy ending.
Yeah. Can you just talk about guidelines and what you know about tick removal and anything you can add to that?
Can I use my?
Yes, please.
So we know that ticks attach themselves with their mouth parts and they sink them in and then they glue themselves in place. So they stick there pretty tightly. And so we know it takes a lot of pressure to pull them off. So the best tools are to have a fine pair of forceps that attach close to where the tick is attached, and then to use even pressure and pull it out. And we tell people that you really don't want to do any of the old remedies like dish soap or nail polish or a lit match to it, because all of those things are going to do is they may kill the tick, but may not.
Right.
But they're not going to reduce the threat, which is, as long as that tick is attached to you, she poses, and it's usually females that are feeding as adults, she poses a risk to you because what's inside her can come out inside to you. And so the goal is to just get it off you as quickly as you can. And a good pair of forceps is a good tool for doing that.
Thank you again for allowing us to be here, teaching us, educating us, so we have the proper information to continue to educate our communities. Our Guardians Against Ticks program that we've created it's for the communities. We have no personal stake aside from our goal is to educate people with the proper information directly from the sources, directly from the experts. And we're super excited to have you a part of this program and giving us the right information.
And we're grateful for the opportunity to work with you so that we can make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're all communicating the best possible information that we can to people, so that we're not giving mixed messages. We're being clear about what's best practice. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.